Hello everybody and welcome to this week's Wednesday Words. I'm Debs from Adapt Counselling, and this week is going to be a little bit different, and that's because I'm going to show a presentation that I delivered at the recent Flowerheads and Candles Bereavement Support Event. Now, several people said to me they wanted to come along and couldn't make it. So I promised them that I would upload the presentation to my YouTube channel. But not only that, I really hope that people experiencing grief may see this video and that it will help them in some small way. And if so, that's all I need to hear. I'm just here with Adapt Counselling to make a difference. I'll now show the presentation and I will talk you through it. Understanding bereavement. I'm going to talk about the process of grief, what we experience after the death of a loved one, to show a short video on guilt and grief created by Dr. Kenneth Doka. The grief wheel shows us a diagrammatic form of the grief process. I'm going to show you Colin Murray Parks's four phases of grief. That's his theory and it's a good one. I'm going to talk a little bit about the experiences of grieving and guilt, and also about anger. Some people really blame themselves when they feel anger, but actually you don't need to beat yourself up. It's a natural process that's caught up with grieving. Grieving then, what does it look like? As you can see here on the slide, it's the process we all experience. It's actually a biological function as we adjust to the loss of anything or anyone important in our lives. It could be a change in health status. That's just one situation that can cause us to grieve. It could be the loss of a relationship. It doesn't always have to be purely because somebody has died. And these are really strong and painful emotions that we experience when we're grieving. And we're often helped by knowing that others may feel the same way. And this is why I wanted to bring Flowerheads and Candles to Haverhill. The next one's on the 19th of June, by the way. But you can feel so isolated, and Flowerheads brings people together. Do contact me if you'd like to know more. The intensity of our grief varies, with each one of us experiencing it differently. And tears are often a relief from grief. And they may come out unexpectedly. You may hear a piece of music. You may see a beautiful view that you've enjoyed with your loved one. Even smelling a beautiful aroma can do it. And it feels like it's for no apparent reason. And this is perfectly normal as part of the grief process. Dr. Kenneth Doka, he's actually a professor emeritus in the College of New Rochelle and senior vice president for grief programs for the Hospice Foundation of America. He's written many books and he's an author of a very well-known book called Dying and Death and Life and Living. And he's well worth looking up. You'll be able to find his books on Amazon. And he actually works in the field of thanatology, which means death and dying. And this is his perspective.
People do have a range of reactions to grief. Sometimes that's physical, sometimes that's behavioral, sometimes that's spiritual, sometimes it's in the ways we think, and sometimes it's, of course, emotional. And again, we would have lots of emotions associated with grief, some that we're very aware of, sadness and loneliness and yearning, some like anger that may surprise us, or some that we don't even like to talk about, such as even jealousy. Why is my spouse dead and your spouse is alive? And that's one we often don't want to talk about or even acknowledge to ourselves. But among those emotions, guilt is a very, very common one. Margaret Miles and Alice Demi, in a study of parents, once found 6 sources of guilt that they actually talked about. One would be the notion of what they called causation guilt. And again, that doesn't have to be rational to be real. So it could be things like, I should have taken him to a doctor sooner, to I should have made him stop smoking. Another kind of guilt can be a kind of moral guilt. This is a punishment for something that I've done. Or in some cases, what we call a role guilt. I should have been a better, and you can fill in, mother, father, sister, brother, son. And then there may be grief guilt. I'm not doing well enough, or I'm doing too well. What we sometimes call recovery guilt, or sometimes you may even feel a survivor guilt. Should have been me. Very common in siblings when a sibling dies. And it may also be common in older people when a younger person dies. I've had 85-year-old grandmothers say, shouldn't have been my son-in-law that died. I'm sick. I'm old. He wasn't. If somebody had to go, it should have been me. So we recognize guilt is very pervasive in grief. And when I work with grieving people, I often ask the question, just to sometimes give them a sense of perspective. Would others find you guilty? And of course, you're right that that another common reaction to grief can be relief, which can also cause a sense of guilt. What kind of person would feel relieved? This almost kind of recovery kind of guilt.
I think he really sums it up well. Obviously, it's his field of work, but I can certainly resonate with some of what he says. The grief wheel, then, we have at the top here, we have loss coming in, and then we have the life function, which is the event itself, somebody dying or a change in health status or the other scenarios that I spoke about. Then we have shock. Quite often in the first year after somebody we love has died, we almost feel numb, as if we have a thick brain fog, as if we are walking through treacle. And this shock factor, this numbness, is a biological function, as I said earlier, in our internal system that actually protects us from the intensity of the emotion. And very often, like I said, this happens in the first year after death. And then moving forward, we come to this part where there's almost like, some people call it bargaining, a protest, a yearning, maybe where we want the life back that we've had before, when we were with that person, and the memories that we have of that life we had together. and it's a backwards, forwards of trying to accept the grief, yet we can't. And the reason that happens, quite often we know logically that somebody's died or an event has happened, but emotionally in our heart it feels impossible to come to terms with. And that is this process stage. And within that, there is this disorganisation that I spoke about, with the brain fog happening, and to time frame it is impossible. I think I said at the Flowerheads event, I'd far rather have a broken arm or leg in plaster with a fixed healing period, where everybody can see you're in pain, you're hurting. But with grief, it really is as long as it takes, and that's one of the hardest things to cope with. Then we have this reorganisation stage, where that searing pain that we get initially upon losing a loved one dying, begins to ease. And it doesn't mean we forget that person. It doesn't mean it's offensive to the person who's no longer with us, or that we're betraying them, that we're moving forward. And I say moving forward, I don't think we move on from somebody dying, but we move forward. And what happens is people start to be able to look more to the future, to be able to maybe, say, book a holiday, for example. And also, it's quite usual that you're able to look back upon photographs and memories of your previous time spent together with that person, or previous experiences, without any longer feeling that searing pain of emotion. I hope that makes sense. Colin Murray Parkes was a British psychiatrist, and he's also written numerous books and publications on grief. He actually had an OBE from the Queen for his services for bereaved people. His work is definitely worth a look also. He talks about 4 phases of mourning. I've actually gone through these with the diagram, so I'm not going to repeat myself. Again, you can see them listed here, but sometimes it helps to see the phases in pictorial style, if you're the type of person that likes images, or written out as they are here. I hope that makes sense. And some people find their emotions vary, going up and down like a roller coaster. One moment you can feel fine, the next you can feel in the pits of despair. And grief and mourning are completely illogical. And those stages that are shown in the wheel, they don't happen one after the other. You can go backwards, forwards, skip one, think you're moving forward, and then the next day, right back to the beginning again. And this can go on and on, which is why it's so important to seek support. You are not alone. Grief makes us feel so isolated. Try and find time and space for you and reach out. I know it's hard to do. It takes a lot of courage. It takes a lot of guts to walk through the door to, say, the Flowerheads and Candles events, or any other bereavement support events that you attend. But it's so important that you make that move. Next, I'm going to show a depiction of grief, I've called it, by Johan Bourgeois, a French choreographer, circus artist, and performer. He often uses his own body in poetic physical works. And he's talking about grief here, and it creates such a powerful metaphor for struggle, failure, and perseverance in the human condition. I thought it was perfect for this presentation. And I guess this represents experiences such as grief, setbacks, or life's repeated attempts to move forward despite falling back. Let me play it for you now. Kudos to this artist for his description of grief in his work. I won't add too much to this, so this is a long video, but I do hope you can gain some comfort from what you've heard me talk about today. And please, if you need support, do reach out to friends, to organisations. We're here to help you. You are not alone. If you have liked this video, please share with anybody you feel may benefit, and I will look forward to speaking to you again next Wednesday. This has been Debs from Adapt Counselling. Thank you very much. Bye bye now.